We saw string concatenation back in the print function video, and we're going to build upon that slightly here. We're then going to take a look at the string object join method. This join method is fantastic for creating SQL type expressions that you can feed into definition queries or filters. Let's head over to PyScripter and take a look. Okay, let's dive straight in. We'll create a variable called city and set that equal to Dublin. We'll create a variable called country. We'll set that equal to Ireland. We'll create longitude. Set that equal to minus 6.2603. And of course we'll create latitude and set that equal to 53.3498. We now have some variables. Let's begin string concatenation. We saw similar before in the print function video. We'll create a variable called text and we'll set that to equal city plus, then we'll create a string literal. Space is the capital city of space plus country. We'll then print that text to screen. And we can see Dublin is the capital city of Ireland. I spelled capital wrong. You can forgive me for that one. I'll correct it in the next example. I'm going to hit up and up again. We're going to reuse this piece of code. I'll put in the I. We're going to try concatenate the longitude and latitude. So I'm going to add a plus followed by string literals, put a space and a hyphen, another space and an opening parentheses. We'll then put another plus and we'll add our longitude. Another plus for concatenation. String literals with a comma followed by a plus and our latitude. Another plus, we're nearly there, followed by string literals to contain the closing parentheses. Now in your mind, what do you envision happening here? We wanted to create a string that is Dublin is the capital city of Ireland, followed by a hyphen and in parentheses our longitude and latitude coordinates. When I hit enter, we see we get an error, a type error, that we can only concatenate string, not float. Now we saw in string formatting how this was not an issue. It did it perfectly. But when you're using plus as a concatenation method, you need to cast everything to a string. So all objects must be a string in order for the concatenation to work here. This is a limitation. Now you'll see this old form of concatenation all over the internet. I do not recommend using it. Stick to your string formatting. If you do happen to have a case to use it, we can cast our longitude and latitude floats to string as we've seen before. We use the string method and cast these to a string. Now when we hit enter and print our text, we have Dublin is the capital city of Ireland, followed by our hyphen and our GPS coordinates. One trick that does come in handy is using concatenation shorthand. Let's create a variable called text and we'll set this to equal an empty string. If we print text, we currently have an empty string. Now let's say text plus equals. This plus equals is saying take the current string as it is and concatenate the string to the right hand side of the plus equals and overwrite in place. Now strings are immutable, we know that. It is overwriting the variable in place. We'll use our city for this example. Now when we print our text, we have Dublin. Let's say text plus equals. This time we'll add in our is the capital city of, and we'll hit enter. Again, we'll print our text and we can see it is concatenating for us. Lovely. We'll finish off with text plus equal country and print the text to screen. And we can see Dublin is the capital city of Ireland. That's enough of string concatenation. Let's move on to the join method, which is a built-in function for a string object. This is fantastic for creating SQL type expressions for queries and filters with GIS data. The join method concatenates strings from an iterable. An iterable can be a string, it can be a list or a tuple, or any other type of iterable. It is something that you can move through one element at a time. And we know we can do that with strings because we saw in the indexing and slicing that we could access each character individually. With the join method, you begin with a separator. Let's take a look. We will print, and we're going to put in our double quotes, and we'll put a space in those double quotes. That's the string literal. We can use the dot join method on a string object, and we'll put in country as the iterable. So what do you think will happen here? It is going to print out the string associated with our country variable, which is Ireland, and place a space in between each character. We could also do a hyphen or a comma. Now you are more than likely going to use a comma more than anything else as your separator. And let's take a look why. We briefly saw a list back in the line continuation video, and there's a whole section dedicated later on in the course. For now, I'm going to create a list called county_list. I'm going to set this to equal the square brackets, which defines a list. And in this list, I'm going to add 3 string objects. Kildare, Dublin, and Cork. Lists look self-explanatory, yeah? Anyway, we can iterate through a list. Kildare would be index 0, Dublin would be index 1, and Cork would be index 2. And this is our iterator that we're going to supply in to our join method. Hit enter. Now we're going to create a variable called SQL expression and set that equal to be a string. As you may or may not know, in an SQL expression, when performing a definition query or a filter, we supply in the field name for our table. So that's going to be county as an example. And we're going to use the in expression. So county in. Now when we use in, we need parentheses. But what do we want in the parentheses? We're going to use our string format method here. So we'll put in curly braces. I'll put in a 0. At the end of our string, we're going to say dot format. Now we want to use our join method. We want to use a comma as a separator. We'll say dot join. And in our join, we're going to supply in our county list. And I'll hit enter. Now I purposely made one little mistake here with the SQL expression that I'm going to highlight to you in a moment. But for now, I'm just going to print the SQL expression to screen. And we can see we get county in, Kildare, Dublin and Cork. Now can anyone see what's wrong with that? Correct. Or were you? In an SQL expression, any text values need to be wrapped in a single quote. These are not. And we can easily fix that by putting our single quotes around our curly braces. Now when we hit enter and print our SQL expression, okay, a little better, but not quite there. We have a single quote at the beginning and the end, which means this is one full string. We need Kildare, Dublin and Cork to be wrapped in single quotes of their own. We go back to our expression and we place the single quotes around the comma as a separator for our join method. So think about it. In the last example, it was only a comma, and here's the comma separator. Now we're going to add in a single quote, comma, single quote. So each comma in here is going to be replaced by a quote, comma, single quote. We'll execute that line of code and print the SQL expression again. Perfect. That's exactly what we needed. We can see that our separator has been used between Kildare and Dublin and Cork. In this video, we revisited and built upon our knowledge of string concatenation. Using the plus symbol for string concatenation is not something you should focus on using you should prefer the format method over this old style of concatenation. But the string concatenation shorthand might come in handy at some stage. We then saw how powerful the join method for a string object is to create SQL expressions. The join method is used on a separator string, and we supply in an iterable to the join method.